Welcome to this edition of the Podcast Studio. Interference is proudly presented by the Dramatic Writing and Sound Design departments at the Savannah College of Art and Design. Join us as we delve into the mystery of Interference's January 17th distress calls.
As authorities investigate the distress signals, speculation of psychological warfare has begun to spread panic
this is how it's done.
worldwide.
You
We
say,
like to
hey,
think that
look over
psychological
here.
operations ended
Looking
with the
over
Cold
here.
War. But the reality
all
is
the
they are
while-
very still alive.
Hundreds of distress calls are intercepted at radio stations on the
New York
ground.
to Tokyo, from London to Sydney.
These are fake distress calls.
I launched international investigation.
I've made a mistake.
Good evening, listeners. You're tuning into Interference, where we explore the strange and unexplained phenomenon of the January 17th distress calls. Today, we turn our theories over to the complex and often murky realm of foreign affairs, where power plays, strategic manipulation, and psychological warfare intertwine. Later in the episode, we'll also be speaking with our anonymous caller from the last episode to gain further insights into this unfolding mystery. Tonight, we're pleased to welcome Dr. Lila Sinclair, an expert in international relations. Thank you for being here, Dr. Sinclair.
Thank you for having me.
So, you've been in your current role for 6 years, is that correct?
It will be 7 in 2 months.
Wow, that's impressive. What does a typical day look like for you in your role?
A day in my job can vary widely, but it often starts with reviewing intelligence reports and analyzing data related to current geopolitical events. I spend a lot of my time assessing the impact of psychological operations on public perception, which includes monitoring media narratives and social media trends.
I can only imagine that monitoring for psychological warfare has become significantly more challenging in today's digital landscape.
It has. With evolving technology, it's become more crucial than ever to stay ahead of emerging tactics.
Many listeners are curious about the recent distress calls and the theories surrounding them. Do you think psychological warfare could play a role in these distress calls?
At first glance, yes. The sheer volume of misinformation surrounding these calls could suggest a potential foreign distraction and motive.
How does that theory stand up against further research?
Initially, the theory seemed compelling, but upon further research, these distress calls do not appear to be politically motivated, at least not by a foreign body.
What brought you to that conclusion?
Well, whenever I'm trying to identify foreign influences in media, I typically start by comparing the evidence with known historical examples.
What historical examples have proven most helpful in this analysis?
The Operation Mockingbird initiative during the Cold War. In this operation, the CIA infiltrated and influenced major news organizations to disseminate propaganda that aligned with U.S. interests. These operations were highly coordinated and highly motivated, neither of which appear to be the case with the distress calls. If these calls were intended to manipulate or sway public opinion, they would exhibit a high level of organization and convey a clear narrative. Instead, the public is left in a state of confusion. Uncertainty is not the goal of psychological warfare.
Do you think this confusion could be due to the use of new techniques that have not been previously utilized?
My team has explored the evolving nature of influence techniques, and we see that even in recent times, these methods are highly motivated. A prime example is the modern cyber warfare campaigns, such as Russia's interference in the 2016 US presidential election. The use of social media bots to spread disinformation was deliberate and followed a clear strategy aimed at influencing voter sentiment. These operations involved sophisticated planning and execution, targeting specific demographics with tailored messages.
You said earlier that the distress calls didn't appear to be politically motivated, at least by a foreign body. Do you think then that this could be a domestic influence?
If it is politically motivated at all, I think it would have to be domestic. But my assertion is that this was orchestrated by a small, disorganized group.
What insights can you provide regarding the nature of this group?
I would say this is a private organization, internally motivated. Likely not directly politically motivated, but rather driven by their own self-interests.
What kinds of motivations might they have?
Unfortunately, that is where my expertise ends. Financial gain is a common one, perhaps distraction from a scandal, but that's all I've got.
Well, thank you so much, Lila. Your expertise has been invaluable.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I look forward to listening to the rest of the podcast and hearing what you uncover.
Thank you. Have a great night. Now, we turn our attention to Natalie Reynolds, a seasoned nurse and one of the few willing to publicly confront MindSight Laboratories. In our last episode, we touched on the unsettling parallels between the rhythmic clicking of the DNA sequencer and the sounds embedded into the distress calls. Today, we'll go further, delving into Natalie's first-hand experiences with MindSight and the harrowing accounts of others who crossed paths with the facility's shadowed practices. Hi, Natalie. We appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Natalie, last episode, you seem to know a lot about MindSight Labs. What's your personal experience with them?
When my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, my brother, who lived nearby, chose MindSight as his treatment facility. Without consulting me, mind you.
As a nurse, I'm sure that must have bothered you.
It did. He didn't have the expertise to choose a reputable facility, and I think he was blinded by all the showmanship.
You mentioned showmanship last episode, particularly that all the employees seemed to think they were working at some kind of medical haven. What gave you that impression?
Well, the employees lived on site. They weren't allowed to have their own apartments.
Really? That is strange. Did the patients live there too?
Yes, it was mandatory.
Why?
They said the environment needed to be strictly controlled for the patients to achieve a full recovery.
That's quite a commitment.
It is. They clearly had a commitment to building a sense of community, which in theory is great.
What do you mean exactly? How did they build a sense of community?
They held daily group activities, meditation sessions, art therapy, and the doctors joined them in all these activities. It was designed to make everyone feel supported and connected.
That sounds almost nice.
Yeah, like I said, in theory, great. But it was also strange. The patients were encouraged to open up emotionally with the doctors, and there was a focus on holistic and alternative treatments.
Interesting. What kinds of roles did the doctors take on with the patients?
The doctors acted more like life coaches, often participating in therapy sessions and sitting with patients during meditation practices.
Do you believe MindSight lacked genuine medical treatment, or do you think they just offered holistic solutions alongside conventional medicine?
Oh, they definitely offered gene therapy and other legitimate treatments. It wasn't all unconventional. I think that's what made it particularly tricky. It was hard to tell what was quackery and what wasn't.
Do you think MindSight Labs made it easy for someone with no medical knowledge to be swayed?
I do, yeah. My brother has never been particularly good at practical decision-making, but he wasn't the only one to buy into it.
Who else bought into it?
My father. He truly thought they'd be able to save him.
I imagine that would be compelling, given such a difficult diagnosis.
Yeah, it was. I saw my father as a very logical man, but when you're faced with something like that, it's easy to just believe what you want to believe.
He wanted to believe that they could cure him, but there is no cure for neurodegenerative diseases, right?
That's correct. There are treatments that slow down the mental decline, and there are medicines that make the symptoms easier to live with, but there is no cure.
We talked a lot about this last episode, but I'm curious about the employees. Were there any you knew personally? Any I could get in contact with?
Well, the head psychologist, for one.
What was his name?
Her name.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
Her name was Sarah Harper. I actually already reached out to her for your sake.
You already reached out to her?
Sarah was one of the witnesses who testified against MindSight during my hearing.
But she was also an employee at the time, right?
No, she had actually left the organization sometime before that.
Do you know why she decided to leave?
It was due to patient mistreatment, but honestly, Sarah is the best person to explain that. She was on the inside, and I know how busy she is. She won't have much time to speak now. You really should talk to her while you can.
Do you mean right now?
Yes, I do. She's really not a very easy person to get a hold of. You can call me back after.
Natalie's suggestion was clear and urgent. Sarah Harper, a rare source, might not be available for long. I reached out to Sarah, and Natalie's warning proved true. From the outset, Sarah made it clear that her time to speak was limited.
Hi, sorry. Give me 1 second. All right, just letting you know now, I have a client in about 15 minutes.
That's perfectly fine. We can make use of the time we have. So, you were hired at MindSight as part of the core leadership team, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Malachi hired me as their head psychologist, despite only ever being a life coach.
That's quite a leap. How did that happen?
I initially applied for a position as a therapist, but during our interview, he remarked on my ability to connect with people. He suggested I had the potential for a more significant role within the organization. By the end of the meeting, I was offered a promotion and a pay raise. At the time, I believe he saw something in me.
Was there anyone under you who was underqualified?
Yes. Almost all of my subordinates, meant to be child psychologists, therapists, mental health professionals, were yoga teachers, biking instructors, school teachers. I think he knew he was giving us positions and titles we wouldn't have anywhere else.
To keep you from leaving.
Yes.
In 2021, you quit, correct?
Yes.
What made you quit?
I found out why he hired me.
Why did he hire you?
After an incident, Malachi had to be supervised around all his patients.
You were hired to supervise him?
Yes, and to monitor the psychological well-being of all of his patients. I was supposed to be looking for signs of emotional distress or coercive treatment practices. Things like forced compliance manipulation, but I wasn't trained for that. I was a life coach, not a psychologist. I was underqualified and I couldn't protect them. So I quit.
What incident happened to make Malachi have to be supervised?
All of the female patients started shaving their heads, supposedly to get Malachi to leave them alone.
That's awful. I'm so sorry. Were they scared of him?
I believe they were. Even in my interactions with him, I noticed uncomfortable behavior. And I'm a capable, mentally sound individual. People like that tend to act differently around vulnerability or illness.
What do you mean by people like that?
Some people go into the medical field to help people. And some people go into the field because they get to be around weak people.
That's a disturbing way to describe that.
He's a disturbing man to describe. Also, about the DNA sequencer. It's definitely the sound that you hear in the background of those distress calls.
Are you certain?
I'm certain. I was around it every day for 3 years.
If the distress calls are, in fact, being broadcast from MindSight, then what does that mean for their patients? Are they being harmed?
I can't say for sure. My focus was strictly on mental health. While I was aware of certain aspects of the patient's experiences, I wasn't involved in their medical care. That lack of involvement is probably the only reason I feel safe to speak on this at all.
What do you mean?
All the researchers were under strict NDAs, and there was a complete separation between mental health professionals and the research staff. Communication between the two sectors was monitored pretty closely. Certain patients, in fact, were entirely off limits to us with no explanation provided.
Do you believe there's a possibility these patients were subject to mistreatment, potentially in connection with the distress calls?
I do, yes.
Earlier, you mentioned that you only feel comfortable speaking about this because your knowledge is limited. Do you believe that, had you been part of the research team, speaking out would put you at risk?
Yes, I do.
Why?
During Natalie's medical malpractice case against MindSight, we repeatedly attempted to find someone from the research division willing to testify or even provide a statement. No one would come forward. The few responses we had received were cold, clinical, and the majority didn't even reply at all.
That is incredibly concerning.
My client is here. Could we finish this another time?
Yes, of course.
Thanks.
In the last week, I've received dozens of emails, audio files, voicemails, and even a handwritten letter, all sharing one thing in common: MindSight. This overwhelming response has compelled me to address the evolving focus of this podcast. When I began, my intention was to methodically explore 7 distinct theories surrounding the January 17th distress calls, an impartial deep dive into every possibility. But the sheer volume of sources I've received, combined with the insistence that Mindsight is at the center of something larger, has shifted my perspective. Although the connection to the January 17th distress calls is not clear yet, I'm choosing to pursue this lead. I'm recording from my car. I just drove home from the studio and there's a man in my driveway. I'm parked around the corner. He's gone now, but he left a box at my door.
This episode was made possible by the dedication and hard work of the following team. Sound design by Zaya Lee. Written by Julia Wooten. Supervising producers Sarah Wilhelm and Julia Wooten. Producers Jessica Mayer and Kalani Washington. Lead sound supervisor Tennille Boone. Sound supervisor Bodie Blanchard. Zaya Lee, music editor, recording engineer, dialogue editor, sound effects editor, Foley artist, Foley mixer, Foley editor, Bodie Blanchard, re-recording mixer, recording engineer, story editor, Reese Landsman, additional writers, Knox Silver and Maddie Sodeman, art by Carrie Jones, intro and outro music by Julia Wooten and Archer McCracken, featuring the voices of Spencer Weinstein as series announcer, Robert Damisch as reporter 1, Peyton Thompson as political analyst, Hayden Weiss as reporter 2, Spencer Weinstein as crisis management consultant, Grace McGlynn as reporter 3, Sophia Denise as civilian, Lizzie Sorrell as host, Mila Obarenko as Dr. Sinclair, Piper Ruth as Natalie Reynolds, and Cadence Ream as Sarah Harper. Special thanks to Faculty Advisor Renee Bishop, Chair of Dramatic Writing Avery Stork, Chair of Sound Design Mitchell Gettleman, Chair of Film and Acting Andrew Reeve-Rabb, Executive Dean Kate Newell, SCAD's President and co-founder Paula Wallace. Thank you for joining us. And until next time, stay critical, stay curious, and stay tuned.